Hey guys, so today would be day
Day 9.
8 of my transformation, but as you guys know, I wouldn't call this a failure. I would call it a lesson to learn from my mistakes. I obviously did something wrong in my either my spell or my transformation. So today I'm doing the reverse spell, and yeah, I feel like a lot of you, I wasn't very specific on how to do the reverse spell in my first video, and I feel like a lot of people didn't get to see that part because it was at the very end. So I am going to do a tutorial on here as well. One thing I wanted to mention as to why my spell may not have worked, aside from the technology use, is that in doing the reverse spell, I had to do a little bit of research in my little book about fairy spells and potions that I used to reference in my very first video, How to Become a Fairy, and I noticed something that I had missed a couple steps in my becoming a fairy. Now, as you probably know from my first video, I mentioned that you need a strand of hair in your potion and that you have to scoop it up and it has to go on the chime. Well, I had forgotten because it's been so long since I even looked at the spell, and prior to the first video, I had done so much research since it had been a while since I even did that spell, so I did research so I knew it was accurate, and this time I kind of just thought I remembered it 100%, but I didn't realize that, like, I had forgotten that the hair needed to be on the chime in order for the spell to fully work, and I don't know if that's a reason as to why it didn't work, because I was getting side effects and then it just kind of was a dud. And then the second thing is, when you finish rubbing the potion onto your chime, you're supposed to and tap and hold on to the chime as you are holding the chime. I don't know. But you're supposed to do that while you're doing your spell, and I didn't do the kiss kiss, and I did not have the hair on my chime. So that's maybe a reason why it didn't work 100%. I'll try to do it again with the exact spell. Yeah, because that's not fair to you guys, and I'll do it on film so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing and correct my mistakes. And yeah, without further ado, here is the reverse spell and tutorial. Okay guys, so I'm starting the tutorial and I'm also doing the spell, so I think that's kind of cool. It is the reverse spell to become a human after being a fairy or after having done the fairy spell. So what you'll need is a container filled with about that much water. This is just like the fairy transformation spell. It's so similar. Next thing you'll need, I'm using the exact same soap that I always use. Soap. And you're just going to squirt that in, about that much. The next thing that I'm putting in this potion is dead flower petals, and they must be dead again for this spell. And a lot of people ask me how to know if a flower is dead. So you can just tell because of the texture. You can't feel it here in the video, but they do not look pretty. They're very dry and crumply. Anyways, you're just going to plop those in and let them soak in the water like this. And it doesn't matter what flower petal that you use for this. You don't have to soak them, but I like to soak them. And then the next thing is you're going to use the same personal beloved item that you used to become a fairy. So my ring, of course, I'm going to be putting in there. I don't know if you can see it, but my ring is in there. And yeah, so as you can see, it's on my finger. Okay, so the last thing for this potion is a little tiny piece of hair. So I have my hair right here, and I'm just going to put that in there. Boom. So now you're going to take your finger and you're just going to stir until everything is all mixed in, which would mean the flower petals are completely soaked, your item is completely soaked, and your soap is fully mixed. So this is what mine looks like now. You can see the ring under there. It's submerged, obviously. So next you're going to take your chime, which I have here, the same chime. And it doesn't have to be the same chime that you used. It doesn't have to be the same chime that you used to become a fairy. It's recommended, but I obviously couldn't do that because I used my teacher's chime, so I'm going to use this chime. And what you do, since my last video I didn't actually chime it for as long as I should have, but since I am doing this spell, I will be chiming this for 10 seconds now. So I'm not going to get the whole 10 seconds on film, but I'll start, maybe I will, I don't know. So 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you'll need to chime it for 10 seconds, and then you're just going to lay it flat on the floor. So the next thing that you do is you're going to take one of the flower petals and get all of this, including your hair. I don't know if you can see it, but my hair is on the petal. And you're going to take it and you're going to spread it onto your chime. Make sure the hair is there, all right? Next thing, you're going to and hold it on the chime. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm holding my finger on the chime right now, as you can see. But I don't know if I mentioned this before in my other video, but this has to be done on a flat surface. I was just holding it up for the sake of the video so you guys could see what I'm doing while I was talking. But you're just going to hold that there for as long as, I'd say, up to 10 seconds. Now you're probably wondering, what about the fairy dust? Well, I have it right here, but you're not going to be putting this into your potion. It's a little different for the reverse spell. What you're actually going to be doing is you're going to take your fairy dust, right? And you're just going to get a little bit out of there. So you're just going to pinch it with your fingers. I'm not going to do it right this second, but because I'm just explaining it. And as you are saying the spell that I'm about to say, you're going to, instead of chiming the chimes, which you can do both at the same time if you want, but you don't have to chime the chimes, you're just going to pinch it, and you're just going to throw it behind you. And yeah, so I'm just going to do that while I say the spell. Alright, and this is the spell, and you're going to say it 3 times. So I'm just going to do it now because I am doing the spell. And I have my fairy dust here. I don't want to open my hand so it falls out. But you just throw this behind you right as you're saying it. You don't have to hold it and like do it for the entire spell. Just as long as it takes you to throw it behind your shoulder. So I'm just going to go, and I'll put the spell right here and in the description. So I use my wings, but I am through. I've had my times. I've spun and flew. I enjoyed this fairy portal. Please turn me back into a mortal. I use my wings, but I am through. I enjoyed this fairy portal. Please turn me back into a mortal. So the very last step is to take your finger and dip it into your potion, and then you're going to just rub it across your forehead, and then you're going to just let that dry, and that is the end of the spell. So then you can just dispose of your potion and everything, but just make sure that dries onto your forehead, and then you can just wash off your head after it's dry. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial and enjoyed watching me actually do the spell. And I can't wait to see your guys' feedback. I know it'll be supportive like always. And now I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to try to do it as fast as possible because I don't want this video to be too long, because my videos like this are pretty long. So let's just get started. So Alyssa W said, can you maybe do the spell again but not use internet that much? I will try, and because I did miss a couple steps of this spell, and yeah, I'll try. Alyssa W also said, have you ever seen a boy fairy? Yes, I said that in a previous video. And guys, I'm not going to be answering questions that I've already answered before anymore. So if I see one that I've already answered, I can't answer it because I already did, and it's just time consuming. Anyways, Miss Random 123 says, what is an aura? And I have a video all about auras. I'll link it down below. Miss Allison 101 said, why is it bad to be Christian and do the spell? I can't answer questions about religion. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Kim Lover Star said, you're awesome. Thank you. Frosty Moon said, I'm not a fairy, but I have bird-like wings, color black to resemble Maleficent. That's very cool. Alyssa W also said, by becoming a pixie, are you allowed to shrink and grow? Also, can you choose to be good as a pixie, or will you just turn into a fairy? You can only shrink, and you will shrink very, very, very small. And no, there are not many good pixies, and most of the ones that say they're good are lying. Jane Callahan said, this video was very disappointing. I was really looking forward to seeing your wings. It was disappointing to me too, and I'm very sorry that I disappointed you. I'm very sorry. That's all I can really say. Maybe next time I will be able to have wings. Ashleen Xavier said, do you think being a fairy can make the Autok come after you? Because you could say that the wings is a costume. Autok is, I think, a group that hunts supernatural. I've heard of Autok, but I've never experienced it, and that's all I can really say. I don't really know much about it. Penelope Webster says, my sister says not to do the spell because if anyone finds out I'm a fairy, I'm going to Area 51 to dissect me. Is that true? No, that's not true. Cedarwood said, all of the spells don't work. You just have to believe and feel that you are a fairy. That how could you go to fairy school? And fairies are allowed to use their phone, especially the technology fairy. There are also different types of fairy dust. There's light blue, light green, light purple, dark blue, pink, yellow, green, dark green, and more like red. First of all, there's no specific fairy. There's no Tinkerbell or anything like that. That's obviously fake, so I don't know what you're talking about. And I never said you couldn't use phones, but you really can't. I mean, I've been a fairy, have you? I'm not trying to be rude, but that was pretty rude to, of all people, to tell me about fairies. Sorry, but you're incorrect by a lot. Elise Vahanian said, maybe you should do the spell again, but not vlog this time. Yeah, I might. Frosty Moon said, well, at least you learned something. You learned from your mistake. Now, if you do it again, you know what to do to not get a bad result. Yes, that's exactly right. Thank you. Kaylin Edwards said, if I mixed red and green fairy dust, would I get the powers from both of them? You probably will, I'm guessing, so definitely give it a try. Farazfar said, is it okay if you use glitter and sparkles? Yes, that's perfectly fine. Alyssa W. said, can you fly in the cold, and can you use the live flowers instead of dead flowers for the potion? No, they must be dead only, because I'll explain that in an upcoming video about why each thing needs to be a certain way. And yes, you can fly in the cold as long as it's not snowing hard or hailing. Ubi2 is basically saying the spell didn't work for this person and that it's fake. Don't accuse me of having a fake spell when I've done it, and I know more about it than you do, and you probably did something wrong, most likely. There's a lot of rude comments on this video, so just putting that out there. Coco Felt said, do you think it's best to do the spell in the summer because we don't have school and we wouldn't be around electronics? Yep, that's the perfect time to do it. AJ Camria Bunny said, I have done some research, like you asked, and have concluded that all spell casting is a sin. I say this because casting spells calls demons to help you, but does the spell you use actually use demons to turn you into a fairy? In my opinion, fairies don't seem like the kind of creatures who worship demons. The reasoning, I believe that God had created fairies, and they are so grateful they cherish the earth and what God has given them. This is why I think that they don't appreciate or hate technology. I would appreciate if you share my findings and my opinion. It would also be great if you add new opinions and reasoning so we can hear the opinion from a fairy who understands spell and magic itself. That makes a lot of sense, and it is very logical. I'm glad you did some critical research. That is always great to hear. But fairies have nothing to do with demons, and I don't think they have much to do with God either. So, yeah, but definitely not an evil thing, and there's no demons involved, if that answers your question. Daisy Purple Mountain said, I got a question. Can you wear shirts if you're a fairy? Yes. Lanisha Foreigner said, do your wings break if you're sleeping? No, they don't. Maggie Coisier said, I just want to say, with all the questions about this being a sin or going to hell if you do this, this is not a sin. Now, of course, this is to a certain extent. If you only do it for power, then that is greed, yes, which is a sin. But it is really up to you and your faith. If your religion is very strict about this, then do not do this. So please do your research and stop flooding her with questions she doesn't know the answers to. I got this information from my mom, but again, please do your research before doing the spell. And remember, this is not witchcraft, but real witchcraft is a sin. That's exactly right. I couldn't have said that better myself. So everyone listen to that, watch it again. That is exactly what you need to hear when you have a question about religion. And that is all the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.